Guys, today we're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes that people make when they first get goats. What are the 5 things that people do most commonly that we see when they get their first goats? I would say the number one most common mistake is getting goats at all. Where did they get them from? Did they go and get the first goat that popped up online for sale? How much research did they do about the breeder? Are they getting meat goats when they intend to have dairy goats? Are they getting goats that are positive for things like CAE or Yonis? Are these goats healthy? Those are all important things that you want to ask yourself whenever you first go out to get goats. Getting goats should not be an impulse buy. It should be something that is well thought out. You should research the farm that you plan on getting these goats from well in advance to purchasing the goats. And the person that you purchase these goats from should be well educated on how to help you and mentor you through your goat owning process. If your intention is just to have a pet goat, then it really doesn't matter what you get, whether you get a meat goat or a dairy goat, a big goat, a little goat. But if you're looking at doing something agriculturally with your goats, whether it's raising them to produce meat animals or raising them to make dairy, you're going to want to be very specific about the type of goat that you get. Do not go out and get the first Nigerian dwarf goat that you find, because commonly people will list things like Nigerian dwarf goats for free, and those things are not actual Nigerian dwarf goats. They may be mixes, they may have issues, they may be a 10-year-old goat that has had complicated birthings for the past couple years and they just decided to get them off. Know that whenever you go out to buy a goat, the goat is being sold for some reason. If it's somebody that has a lot of baby goats, then hopefully they're selling a baby goat because they've genetically bred goats for good qualities like dairy or for meat or for health. But a lot of the time, if you're not going to somebody like a dairy farm or a producer of goat meat or goat products, then you're gonna get stuck with people's leftovers, goats that just really aren't gonna thrive and do well for what you want to do with them. If you want to make cheese or you want to consume the milk, you're going to want to be really specific about where your goats come from. Even if you're just getting a pet goat, you're still going to want to make sure that it's got a few things. If you have small children, you may want to make sure that the goat is disbutted so that you don't have to worry about it injuring your children. And also, depending on the type of fencing that you have or the animals that you intend to keep the goat with, you're going to want to be really careful about the goat's history. Is the goat going to get stuck in a fence if it has horns? Is it extremely skittish? Has it been bottle raised? If I had a pet goat, I would want it to be bottle raised, because bottle raised goats will come up to you like Lily here and our other goats, whereas a goat that's not been bottle raised or highly socialized is going to run off and be very standoff. They're very similar to deer, and they're extremely shy if they haven't been bottle raised by people from day one. All right, and number 2 is going to be feeding that goat. You've gotten your goat, hopefully you researched it. If you're getting a dairy goat, you went out to a nice dairy goat farm and you purchased babies from a dairy goat farm. If you're getting into goats for pets, you went out somewhere that has a breeder that's responsible and test them for things like CAE and Yonis, and you know that that is a healthy goat. You're going to want to find out whatever those people are feeding their goat, and you're going to want to buy plenty of that exact same food, not a different name brand, not from a different store. Preferably buy it from them. Find out how much they're feeding that goat and do not change that diet at all for several weeks, because when that goat, whether it's 1 or it's 100, when they go to your property from their previous property, they're going to be going through a lot of stress. The new environment, they're going to have to find out where their new house is. New things like wildlife may scare them, new livestock guardian dogs, but most importantly, the grasses and trees that they may have access to at your home. So if at the previous home they're feeding them twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, you're going to want to do exactly that. Don't try to butter them up and take them treats during the day, because they're already in a stressful state. And if you throw in on top of that a change in diet, because they have such sensitive stomachs, definitely more than any other animal I've ever been with. We've got everything at the sanctuary, from a camel to horses, parrots, and goats by far are the most sensitive animal that we have here. If you have ever had a fish aquarium, I would think of goats a lot like a fish aquarium. Changing just one small thing can make them very sick. So most importantly, when you bring your goat home, you're going to want to give it a lot of extra pine tree branches and different greens and treats. Don't do it. Do exactly what the previous home was doing. And remember that the main thing that goats eat is hay. That should be a majority of their diet. If you want to give them a treat, make it in the form of things like orchard grass hay or dry things. Never, ever, ever allow them to get into things like chicken food, or maybe you have a bin of the food that they're eating outside of their pen. Don't let them get into the bin and eat a whole bunch at once, because that's going to give them diarrhea. They can get all kinds of infections in the gut. Don't do it. You're going to want to, I promise you, and I'm really harping on this because so many people will try to bond with their new goat through means of food. Just don't do it. It's going to cause your goat to get very, very sick. And you've got a lot of research to do if you intend to change the diet from what the previous owner was doing to what your new intention is. Number 3 is going to be shelter. It's very, very nice to think that goats can come inside of a home or live on something like a solid floor. But if you're anywhere on the east coast of the United States or any other area with a significant amount of rainfall, your goats are going to be riddled with parasites if you intend to keep them on a solid floor housing. In a lot of climates that are tropical or have a higher amount of rainfall, because the parasites that inhabit goats are so prevalent in moist conditions, it's very conducive to a goat's health to have their shelter like a deck. Like if you've ever gone in somebody's backyard and maybe their house is higher than the ground level and they have a back wooden deck in their backyard, you can build something similar to that and build a house with 3 sides on top of it, and that is definitely the best thing that you can build for a goat. What that's going to allow for is drainage. Any of their poop or pee, whenever they use the bathroom, it's going to fall through the cracks inside the deck and allow them to stay nice and clean and dry, and keep them from getting those parasite eggs back on their body and also consuming them. Now, if you do have a solid floor, you're going to want to be absolute certain that every day you're cleaning it, because goats are using the bathroom almost nonstop. And it might be little dry pellets, but it very quickly adds up when you have 2 or 3 that are consistently going. So if they're not on a wooden deck or some kind of slow platform so that all of the urine and poop falls off, it's going to build up quickly, and in just 12 or 13 hours, they're going to be laying in their own poop. A lot of people think that they want to put straw inside of their goat barn and they want to have a nice soft place for them to lay. Goats in the wild are mountain animals, and they move consistently. They never live in the same spot. So if you put a nice deep straw bed inside of their home, what's going to happen is that's just going to be the perfect area for parasites and flies and different bacteria to live. So if you do use straw, it only needs to be during the coldest times of year, and you need to be sure that you clean it out completely frequently. And make sure that they're not laying on top of a damp straw bed. Number 4 is going to be parasites. And I'm not going to go into this a lot because this is something that you really, really, really need to do days worth of research on. There's a whole bunch of different information out there. We've got videos posted where we talk about what we do for our herd, but our herd and a herd 2 miles down the road can be 2 totally different herds. I do not, under any circumstances, recommend keeping goats on a grass pasture. If you do keep goats on a grass pasture, you're going to want to make sure that grass is never less than about 6 inches tall, and when it starts getting below 6 inches, you're going to want to move them to a different area. We keep our goats on what I would call a dry lot. So it is a wooded area, but they've eaten all the underbrush and most of the bark from the trees in their pen, and every couple of years we'll move them to a completely new pen that's never had goats in it before. So these girls are actually going to be moving to a new pen this year, and we won't put goats in this pen again for several years. And that's because the parasites that get inside goats crawl up the blades of grass, and when those goats are consistently eating that grass and keeping it looking mowed, that means that they're consistently reinfecting themselves with those parasites. They can never get rid of them. So you may go out and deworm them, and that same day they go out and ingest parasite eggs. That means that you've done nothing, because they're just consistently reinfecting themselves. So keeping them either in a wooded area where it's really thick vegetation that's at eye level for the goats, or keeping them on a dry lot are the 2 preferred methods for me to make sure that your parasites are low. And people sometimes will get goats and they'll take a fecal to a veterinarian, or they'll learn how to read a fecal on their own, and they'll see that their goats actually have parasites, and they'll get so concerned about it and they'll start deworming their goats like crazy. Don't do that. Always assume that every goat always has parasites, because most likely they do. Always. Even Gandalf here, he's got parasites. What you're trying to do with the goat is not what you're trying to do with a dog or a cat. What you're trying to do with a goat is make sure that the number of parasites they have stays low. If you look at Gandalf, his coat is perfect. His body composition is actually a little bit chubby, and he is healthy. His foot launch is great, and when we run a fecal on him, we may see 2 or 3 barber pole worms or 2 or 3 haemoccus, but he does not have a high enough load that is creating a burden on his body to where he can't maintain weight and maintain the minerals and maintain the weight that he needs to be healthy. This goat right now, for as chunky as he is, primarily consumes coastal Bermuda hay. That's most of his diet is coastal Bermuda. He's not competing with a lot of parasites, which means that his body can ruminate and turn that hay into highly nutritious cud, which he then uses to nourish his body. So parasites, you cannot deep dive enough about them. Learn how to use a microscope. We've got a video on it. Learn how to identify your own parasites and learn how to deworm your goats. And I will say that the most helpful information I've gotten in regards to deworming has always been from another goat farmer over any books or veterinarians or anything. It's always been from other goat farmers in my area. 3 of the best husbandry practices that you can do to make sure that your goats are not getting reinfected with parasites is going to be what we mentioned, keeping them off grass. Goats are not cows. They do not graze grass. So keep them in a wooded lot or dry lot. Another thing is going to be how you feed them. If their hay is falling on the ground constantly and they're running out of hay and they're having to eat the hay that's on the ground, that's just as bad as if they are eating grass that's super short. If they're eating hay off the ground that's been cooked in, then they're just reinfecting themselves. It might as well be a short grass pen. The third way is going to be their food bowl. Our food bowls are all on the outside of the pen. The goats actually have to stick their head through the fence and into their food bowl in order to be able to eat. So we walk along the outside of the fence, pour the grain in, the goats stick their head out and are able to eat. And point number 5 is going to be the number 1 thing. And I would say this is going to be the most detrimental thing to your pet goat.
Apologies for interrupting your cute animal content, but I hope you'll forgive me once you hear that you can actually meet and stay with the very same cute animals that you're watching right now. That's right, you can stay at our Airbnb on the farm and animal sanctuary. Not only will you be provided with luxury amenities like a hot tub, fancy schmancy coffee, a bidet if you're feeling brave, and remote control everything, but you'll also get to hang out with the 150 plus animals that call Goat Daddy's home, including Abu the camel, Norris the cow, Piper the Quadamundi, the crazy macaws, obviously the goats, and every single animal in between. Check the description to book your stay today. Now back to the video.
And I would say this is going to be the most detrimental thing to your pet goat. And that's going to be misinformation. Misinformation can come from veterinarians. It can come from other people. It can come from a YouTube video that you're watching. Misinformation in regards to goats is going to be the main thing that people are going to see whenever they Google, why is my goat sick? Or what's going on with my goat? Is tons and tons of misinformation. I've found multiple farms that I really respect. Every single one of those farms has talked about the struggles that they've had and the things that they've learned, and I've had to vet them myself. Do not go in some goat emergency group on Facebook and type what's going on with your goat and believe the first person that comes up. Use vets that are experienced with working with goats, not vets that have never seen a goat. Our veterinarian has her own goats, which lets me know firsthand that she is there to learn with me and she is willing to work on goats. And even this channel is not an end-all be-all for your goat education and your goat knowledge. We've got 30 to 40 books written over the past 40 years about goats. We've traveled to other countries to see how the goats in those countries live in tropical environments like Costa Rica. I've read every website that I can possibly find. I've joined every Facebook group. I've talked to 10 plus veterinarians who are goat specialists. The feed that we feed our goats. I sat down with a veterinarian from Clemson Extension to formulate a correct feed for our goats. You will never stop learning when it comes to goats. So please, please, please continue doing your research and don't think that the first answer or the first conclusion you come to or the first conclusion that someone gives you whenever you may have an issue with your goat can suffer from things like polio, which is totally different from polio in people. And something as simple as a vitamin B shot can cure goat polio. That's something that you can get for $20 at your local feed store. So please, please, please learn and become very well versed in goat husbandry. Remember our 5 tips that we talked about today, and please comment down below with things that you'd like us to go into more detail about what we do. And also, please leave a like for Gandalf and Lily, who were absolutely perfect throughout this video. We love sharing information about goats, and after 10 years of raising goats, we have gone through just about everything you could imagine with goats. So let us help you and also help us.